Today, distraught father Paul Forrington came to Charlestown Park to see for himself how the accident had happened. His 10-year-old son Justin came here on Sunday with his grandfather to play tennis at adjoining council courts. Justin and a playmate came up this pathway, one of two that give access from the playground to public toilets. But Justin tripped up here and fell. And as his father shows, he fell face first onto this jagged piece of rusty metal.
He's lost total sight. It was right through the optic nerve, everything. There's nothing left of the eye.
It's obvious that both pathways have been adapted as thoroughfares between the playground and the sports oval. This fence here has been roughly tied back with wire, leaving access open, but exposing all sorts of potential dangers. Excited children running down the slope to play could trip on this metal spike, catch themselves on protruding wire or fall on loose piping. Large pieces of glass litter the play area. Many smaller splinters lie hidden in the grass. According to Mr Forrington, neglect by Lake Macquarie Council could result in more accidents.
Totally irresponsible. The glass situation around the whole park, any children playing on the slippery depths, the seesaws, anything, they could be injured badly. And this sort of thing, anywhere around the park, there's pieces of iron sticking out of the ground like stakes. People could be killed here.
Meanwhile, Justin remains in the Royal Newcastle Hospital following preparatory treatment for an artificial eye, the result of an accident that, his father says, should never have happened. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
In its heyday during the 1930s, the Richmond Vale Colliery was the most productive in the world. It's been idle for the last 23 years, and any value is now strictly historic. But Cessnock City Council is hoping that will be enough to make the site a viable tourist attraction.
The long-term plan is to turn this into a living memorial to the mining heritage of the area, and in association with that, the railway organisation is creating the working railway system as well. So it'll be a very comprehensive working model when it's finished.
Over the last decade, more than $1 million has been poured into the scheme, most being used to renovate the ageing buildings. Much remains to be done, but work on a visitors' admission centre was given a boost today when Alcan Australia donated $25,000 to the project.
It's a project in the community we felt strongly about. We've been involved over a number of years in it, almost from the inception. But indeed, we have this building behind us that needed finishing off, and we felt it was worthwhile putting that extra little bit of kick along to get it there, and hopefully we can open it up in the new year for the public.
Work on the visitors' centre should be completed within 6 months. Renovation of mining and power station equipment will continue long after that. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
The Caves Beach development will be Ramada's 6th hotel development in Australia. The hotel group based in Hong Kong is best known for its Renaissance hotels, which offer the highest standard of international accommodation. The Caves Beach project will be Australia's 2nd Renaissance project. The other is in Sydney. Although Ramada's investment in the $800 million project has not been disclosed, it is known it's substantial. The company will operate a 5-star hotel planned for this block of land and a 3.5-star facility by the lake. Head of Gordon Pacific, Noel Gordon, believes work could begin sometime next year. It's hoped the Oceanside Hotel and Golf Course will be completed by the end of 1992 and the entire resort, including 2,000 residential blocks, up and running by the turn of the century. Mr Gordon has no doubt it will attract tens of thousands of tourists. Although originally aimed at the Sydney market, Ramada's involvement has altered that.
Well, we've always said that the market we're looking for is a Sydney-based market as the underlying base to the whole development. But obviously with the sort of facilities we're now offering with Ramada being involved and the site we've got, which is regarded as being world-class, and during their visit to the site at the weekend, the Ramada people say that this particular location will compare with any other site in the world. So we think that the base will be local, but of course added to that will be the international market as well.
One man who knows the industry is chairman of the Tourism Task Force, John Brown. He believes the Gordon Pacific Ramada Resort will offer what domestic and international travellers want.
Given that tourism is Australia's biggest industry, and by the year 2000 will be the biggest industry by a factor of 3, to have sites like this undeveloped for us is an enormous advantage. There wouldn't be another developed country in the world that would have a site like this with its physical beauty, the advantages of being near Sydney, with all the opportunities of the lakefront and the ocean front, that wouldn't be developed. So we're very lucky. We're resort rich in Australia. I mean, surveys show us that by the year 1993, we'll have a shortage of beds on the Gold Coast, in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Cairns, because it takes 5 years to build a hotel from starting point to opening. And by the year 2000, we will have 3 times as many international visitors as we have now. That'll be 6 million visitors. So all the more developments we've got like these, the better. But for Australia to have places like this, I mean, this magnificent site, I mean, visually, it's staggering, undeveloped, makes us quite easily the most tourist-rich country in the world.
You may not realise it in peak hour traffic, but petrol price hikes of up to 40% in the last 3 months have motorists leaving the car at home. The Ride It Right motorcycle training group at Adamstown has noticed a 30% increase in students purely because of the price of fuel.
Well, last week we had a lady that was spending $54 a week in fuel to get to work at Charlestown in a V8, and with a motorcycle she's reckoned it's coming down to around $7 to $12.
With the price of petrol look like approaching about $1 a litre, what we're finding, I think the days of almost 2-car families are almost finished. It appears that they're selling 1 car now, and the gentleman of the family is buying a motorcycle to get to work.
Motor scooter sales have skyrocketed. These 50cc bikes run around 80 to 90 kilometres to the litre. Pedal power is even more economical.
If fuel prices get much higher, this may be the only way to go. There's definitely no worries about petrol strikes or worries over Middle East blockades on oil.
In 15 years in the bicycle industry, Nev Greatorex has never seen such a boom in sales.
Well, I'd say that we're selling between 15 and 20 extra bikes per week since the petrol problem has arisen.
The NRMA estimates it costs more than $200 per week, including such things as depreciation and registration, to run and maintain the average Commodore or Falcon. If petrol prices rise as predicted, the family car may soon be out of the family price range. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In a season that was less than brilliant except for the latter stages, Hill developed as a fine guard with solid defence and a sharp shot. He averaged 18 points per game for the year, and in the final encounter against Illawarra hit a career-high 32 in the NBL. But he won't be playing for Newcastle in 91. Why not?
Well, I didn't agree with Ken that he was going along the right track with the team. I thought that possibly we needed a couple of bigger guys to go in the team, and in bringing back 2 guards, I thought that wouldn't assist my chances of bettering my performances and also of making the Australian team.
The Falcons have brought back Jerry Everett and have signed Al Green from the Adelaide 36ers. Should Hill feel threatened for court time?
He no longer wants me to train with the team. So at this stage, I'm after a release so I can alert the other clubs that I will be available for next year. But at this stage, Ken won't release me from my contract.
But as far as Peter Hill is concerned, he feels he doesn't fit into Cole's plans.
The way the team's been brought in for next year, I just couldn't see myself part of the plans.
At the moment, a stalemate, as Cole won't release Hill before he becomes a free agent on November the 12th, even though Hill no longer works for the Falcons and is not allowed to train with the team. Coach Cole still holds some hope.
Well, Peter Hill was very much in our plans for next season. I said to Peter, which is unusual for me, that I would have anticipated Peter would be a starter. Whether he can hold it is going to depend on Peter and other kids that also want to play. But I was expecting he'd be a starter.
However, the possibilities of reconciliation appear to be zero.
Definitely not. I don't want to play for the Falcons in 1991, but I'd certainly be looking to come back. I don't know when, but I'd certainly like to play for the Falcons again at some stage.
For years, nutritionists have been telling us breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and for just as long, most of us have ignored them. For school children, though, this causes problems. Teachers say an empty stomach makes it difficult for students to concentrate on lessons. The Red Cross hopes to solve the problem with the Gateshead Primary Breakfast Club.
Today, with both parents working, and if they're working shift work, they have to leave home early, and sometimes are unable to give breakfast to their children. By presenting this sort of program in the schools, the children can come here, pay their 50 cents and have a nutritional breakfast.
These children agreed to taste test the menu for our cameras. The verdict was unanimous.
What did you think about your breakfast?
It's nice and I like the taste and the Wheat Bix. It's good.
What do you like about it?
The Wheat Bix.
Yeah?
I think it's good. It's a good idea. It's nice.
What did you like about it?
I like coming here. Like coming here, have Wheat Bix, toast and poppers.
The program has been running for the last 2 weeks, and staff insist the children are already reaping the benefits.
The final success we won't know till the end of the year, but certainly so far there has been a decided improvement in the way many of the children are concentrating and working throughout the day.
The scheme is the first of its type in New South Wales, but it's hoped it will soon spread to other schools.
The London Bobby has done it for years. New South Wales Police experimented with foot patrols 3 years ago. Now a squad of specially trained police will work the Newcastle district in 5 sectors in an effort to cut the crime rate. 14 police will go on the beat in a fortnight's time in an operation which has already had good results in Sydney. The officers will patrol their area on foot and maintain radio contact with the station. They'll get to know the public, shopkeepers and the troublemakers.
It's a crime reduction exercise, that's what we're doing. We're here to reduce the crime. We want to make this place a lot better for people to walk around on late at night. We want the information to come from the public, the residential areas.
The specially selected group is now in training. They'll get involved in community groups, including the local neighbourhood watch. If there are problems with car stealing, street offences or hooliganism, then backup operations will be deployed.
For example, if it's a problem in the west end of Newcastle and Hunter Street, we put more police into there on the beat and we'll sort the problems out.
The battered body of Lee was found after a 16th birthday party at Stockton North Surf Club last November. Before Newcastle Supreme Court today, Matthew Grant Webster pleaded guilty to her murder. Detective Sergeant Lance Chaffey told the court that Webster was a bouncer at the tragic party. Affected by alcohol, Lee had sexual intercourse in the Sandhills with a 15-year-old boy. Upon her return, Webster and several other males spat and poured beer on the young girl. Later in the evening, Webster tried to force sexual intercourse with Lee. When she resisted, he choked her unconscious and struck her head with a large piece of concrete. Medical evidence before the court showed that Lee had no prior sexual experience before this night. Defence counsel argued there was no premeditation on Webster's part, claiming his judgment was impaired by alcohol. Somehow he chose a far worse crime to conceal a lesser offence. A string of character witnesses took the stand for the defence, painting Webster as a shy, gentle and responsible young man. Much of this morning's hearing was taken up with legal argument over the effect of the new truth in sentencing legislation. Justice Wood said the defendant pleaded guilty because life is no longer a mandatory sentence for murder. I would think this man had no chance of beating this charge. He had sufficient wits about him to create an alibi. With the evidence before him, Justice Wood said it was a great shame there were no parents at the party last November. He said the parents of those present had let their children down. Matthew Webster will be sentenced on Wednesday. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
According to rail unions, sites like this could soon become a thing of the past. They claim passengers won't have to buy tickets because there'll be no one around to check them.
You'll find nearly all your stations will be unmanned after 8 o'clock at night. Some stations will not be manned at all of the weekend. You will only have stations such as Hamilton, Broadmeadow, Newcastle, Maitland, about the only stations that will be manned round the clock.
The SRA plans to cut platform staff on Hunter stations by more than 60. Unions say this will slash revenue and lead to further reductions in services. They've accused management of cutting staff numbers to the bone while allowing the bureaucracy to flourish.
1983 figures were around about 180 for top-level management. There's now 480 something.
State rail executives were today unavailable to comment on the issue. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
The silver Ford Fairlane was travelling towards Newcastle when the driver lost control. The car left the road and slid down the steep bushy slope, luckily without rolling. It landed 20 metres below. Ambulance officers arrived with police, but Berta Aird escaped unhurt. She was helped down the hill by police and onlookers who were first on the scene. Police say the wet road and high winds contributed to the accident. Mrs. Aird couldn't explain what went wrong.
The car just started to slide on the wet road. The next I knew, I couldn't control it. It just went over.
Meantime, there was more trouble in the wet at Kooragang Island. A young woman escaped serious injury when she lost control of her Chimera sedan on the slippery road. The car hit the gutter, slid 17 metres and wrapped around a power pole. Fully conscious, the driver was trapped for 20 minutes as emergency personnel worked to free her legs. She was taken to the Ramada hospital with minor injuries.
The wholesale price of oil has suffered a huge fall in the past 2 days. That decrease will be passed on to motorists gradually. As of midnight tonight, the price at Hunter Bowsers will drop by nearly 2 cents. But motorists are being asked not to rush out and fill up their vehicles because the supply of unleaded and diesel to the region is running low.
People are hanging off. Hopefully things will pick up and hopefully the supply will start flowing through so that we can meet demand.
According to Caltex, the supplier of 2/3 of the state's petrol, most service stations have enough unleaded to last them until the end of the week. Diesel has been rationed to essential services only, and that should also hold out until Friday, when the first tankers are expected at Kurnell Refinery in Sydney.
These Nelson Bay school children are caught in an educational tug-of-war. Next year, the Department of Education will order many of them to move to Shoal Bay Primary, a plan many parents are determined to fight.
Quite a few parents are not in favour of it. It's just not a common sense move. It's disgusting.
The thing that concerns me is it's going to break up a lot of friendships. It's going to be very traumatic on the children, and the children are certainly not going to have as good an education, we believe, as what they're getting at the moment.
At present, all infants pupils attend Nelson Bay and all primary students Shoal Bay. As of next year, both schools will have infants and primary departments. Concerned parents fear the standard of education will suffer.
Next year, if we were to remain as one school, we would have one, possibly two composite classes. If the school is split, we could have a possible 12.
Parents say the composite classes, which put children of different grades into the same class, will make learning difficult. They've called on the Department of Education to reverse its decision, claiming it doesn't even make good economic sense.
The minimum estimated cost for this school split is $100,000. And where the department is closing no less than 11 smaller schools in the state, here in Nelson Bay, it's splitting up one large, well-functioning school into two small ones to no advantage.
But the department remains unmoved. Local cluster director John Penman has described the protesters as a very vocal minority and says there's no way the decision will be reversed. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.